So I wanted to throw up a quick video, and I've never really done this before, but I've recently transitioned to this KTM 300 XC TPI, and which is my first two-stroke since four-strokes became a thing. And I just want to talk quickly about kind of my transition in the first 7 hours of having this bike, thoughts, and what it's like to go from a KTM four-stroke to a KTM two-stroke. So just a brief history on the bikes I've had recently was I had a 04 KX 250F, I had a 2012 KTM 350 XCF, and I had a 2017 KTM 350 XCF. When I switched to the 12 350, that was, I really debated at that time, which was some years ago, on going straight to this 300 platform. My hesitation was I just gotten done with that Kawasaki KX 250F and had just a really bad experience with that bike. I think it was, or maybe, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was their first four-stroke 250 model, and they hadn't really worked out the bugs yet on it. Had a lot of problems with valve clearances, had problems with carburetor issues. I mean, I am almost certain I spent more time working on that bike than riding it, and so when it came down to whether I go to a 300 or to a 350 at that time, one of the major decisions for me was I wanted to get away from a carburetor and I wanted a fuel injected bike, which, you know, obviously no two strokes at that time were fuel injected. So I've had, I don't know, I've had those 350s for probably 6 years. I had 350s, and then just in the last month, and this is July of 2021, I switched over to this 200 two-stroke, or 300 two-stroke. And so thoughts and comparisons switching between the four strokes and this bike. First is the counterbalance on these bikes, and this isn't unique to the TPI bikes, is amazing. I feel like this bike may vibrate even less than my four strokes. In fact, I'm almost positive it does. It's so smooth. Another thing I like about it is it's quiet. You know, I always kind of thought two strokes were loud, right? This is not. This is a really quiet bike. With the four strokes, a lot of times I was wearing earplugs when I was riding by myself. I don't see myself doing that on this bike. What else I like about it, and kind of one of the reasons I really moved to it, was riding some friends' two strokes. These bikes they feel nimble. I mean, you put them on a scale, it's not going to weigh much different than my 350s, but it has that less rotating mass, I guess, and so therefore it feels lighter, and it's easier to move around on the trail on single track, which is what I typically prefer to ride. So that's another thing I really like about it. Transition wise, moving from a four-stroke to a two-stroke is the kind of the biggest transition or thing I've kind of had to figure out. Is these things are kind of cold-blooded when you first start them. You can't just start it and go. You have to give it time to warm up, otherwise it's going to bog for a little bit, which isn't a bad thing, but you just have to be patient. On top of that, you can't force it to warm up by revving these bikes. You just start them and you leave them alone. It's not like a carbureted two-stroke. So that's a little bit of a difference, but not a big deal to me. That's fine. Usually I can start the bike up while I'm getting all my gear on at the trailhead. let's see, other transitions, you know, just the only kind of downside I've seen so far, and I'm not really certain if this is a true downside or if I've just haven't figured out the technique yet, is I feel like my 350s could kind of tractor up a steep hill climb better. I felt like I could stop almost on those hills and still find traction. This bike, I'm not sure. I think it can do that. I just haven't gotten that feeling down yet on this bike. But I will say, a couple weeks ago I rode in Utah. I'm here in Oregon. Rode in Utah. We rode up American Fork Canyon and went up to about 10,500 feet. So, and it was a pretty technical sections. And I did great up it. I was really happy to have this bike. So, transition-wise, if you're considering between a 350 or a 450 or maybe a 250 XCF and one of these 300 or 250 TPI bikes, I can tell you that it's not going to be a huge difference, but it puts a smile on my face. And I felt like I'd ridden 350s for 6 years and was kind of looking for kind of to revitalize and add a little excitement back into my riding and something that makes me passionate and want to go out more. And this bike does. It makes me want to ride it more. It's new and it's a lot of fun, and it's kind of a new thing to learn. So that's, I love it. But I will say I've ridden recently with some buddies, and I've ridden an 08 300, a 14 300 XCW, a 16 300 XC, and a 17 250 XCW. And this bike is, you know, by and far and away the smoothest. It's got the smoothest throttle. It's the only TPI bike that of that group, and it's just very smooth. But I didn't feel like I wasn't going to have fun on those bikes either. So, I mean, even the 300, the 08 300 felt really good. Now that bike's been kept really well and had upgrades and stuff. And I mean, even that bike was a lot of fun. So it's not something where you got to go and get it right now because it's so great. Because at the end of the day, if you're on a dirt bike out on a trail, it's going to be fun. And yeah, maybe this bike makes my life a little easier out on the trail. But I think there's fun to be had on a lot of bikes. Although I would not recommend a motocross bike. I don't understand people who ride cross bikes on single track. That just seems miserable to me. Kind of one other transition thing is the bike is so smooth and quiet that, you know, when you come off throttle, you expect to experience three things: an increase in sound, an increase in vibration, and then an increase in your movement or acceleration. And this bike, you don't really experience a real big increase in sound, and you don't experience a real big increase in vibration, but you do experience the movement. However, when you remove two of the three things you expect to feel, it's like, does this bike have a hesitation off the bottom end? Do I need to think about retuning the ECU? Like what is going on? And the more I've ridden it and the more I've swapped bikes with buddies and had them ride it, I've just concluded, I think it's just I'm so used to hearing more sound and hearing more or feeling more vibration, that when I don't feel those, I feel like, something's off. So I think it's just going to take time to feel that. And I'm not saying that this bike is like an electric quiet or electric smooth, but it's just enough so that it's kind of strange. So, but it's good, and I think in time I'll get used to it and probably come to really enjoy that. One of the reasons I switched from my 350 to this 300 was I was getting to the point where I wanted to have more bottom end. I felt like that 350 took a bit of, compressing the suspension and working the clutch to get that front end to come up when I wanted to. Whereas this bike, I can almost just twist the throttle and it's gonna react. So it's great in that regards. I feel like it's just a little bit more my style in the woods. So anyways, I'll try and keep this, wrap this up. And anyways, let me know your thoughts and your questions on the 300 or transitioning from the 350 to the 300 or 4 strokes to 2 stroke, because that's an ongoing debate and I don't know if I can solve it, but I can give you my thoughts because I got a lot of hours on 4 strokes and now I'm getting hours on a 2 stroke. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are and give me, shoot some questions my way and I'll try and answer them best I can. Of course, there's other guys out there like Kyle at Dirt Bike Channel who can give you a lot more about these bikes and the specifications and what they do well and don't well in comparison to other bikes and other year models. But I think I'll give you kind of more of what it's like to transition from a 4-stroke to a 2-stroke and kind of at least weigh in a little bit on that ongoing and never-ending debate. So guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. Hope to see you out on the trail.